November is National Diabetes Month, so I thought I would talk to you a little bit about it because it's a disease affecting 37 million Americans, and it doesn't take into account all of those who don't know they have the disease and those who are pre-diabetic and don't know or have been told they're pre-diabetic but really not followed up with and being told you're going to watch it, which I hate that. Why do I hate that? Because watching a condition like pre-diabetes or watching the fact that your cholesterol is a little elevated, your glucose is a little high in your blood, watching doesn't do anything other than watching it go downhill and you get sicker and sicker. So I like to jump on things, and it's always easier in the pre-stage than it is already in the disease stage. But that's not to say that type 2 diabetes, and that's what I'm talking about today, not type 1, which is genetic, but type 2 diabetes is definitely a disease of lifestyle. And it's a terrible disease. I mean, your eyes are affected, you can go blind, your nerves are affected, you lose feeling in your feet, you can get amputations, kidney disease as a result. There are certain cancers associated with diabetes, obesity, of course, and with type 2 diabetes, not only obesity, but heart disease as a result. So it's not a pretty disease, yet it's a disease that's completely controllable if you're willing to do so. So I wanted to talk to you about what we do here at Root Cause Medicine to reverse type 2 diabetes because it's exciting. And I was looking at some research of some natural approaches like our own and finding 75% normalization of blood sugar and the measurement that's best to assess how your prediabetes or diabetes is progressing, which is the hemoglobin A1C. And every time you get an annual physical, that number will be there. You want it under 5.3. It's actually a percentage. So under 5.3% is optimal. Now, as soon as it's above that in the 5.4 to 6.0 range, that we consider pre-diabetes. Now, that will still be listed as normal, but from our perspective, we always are trying to assess all blood tests, really all lab tests from the perspective of what is truly ideal, optimal, not just, oh, well, it's not quite diseased yet, so you're okay. No, you're not. You don't jump from ideal to diseased, in a short period of time. It's a step-by-step process. So under 5.3, you're looking good. 5.4 to 6, you are pre-diabetic. And then, of course, above 6, now we're in frank diabetes. None of it is too late. The body loves to heal and it loves to repair. And some of the things we look at Root Cause is to, what are the body burdens? So the body loves to heal, it loves to repair, it knows how to do that. But what are the body burdens such that your cells are not being responsive to insulin, which is the hormone your body secretes once you have high blood sugar? Great doctor. Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. Appreciate the lovely comment there. So what we want to look at are, again, what are these body burdens such that the blood glucose is too high and we're leading to what's called insulin resistance of our cells. And it's not, in the old days, it was just, okay, you're eating too much sugar. But now we understand that there's really a lot in the American diet that isn't supportive of good blood sugar and just overall health. And we're really looking at inflammation as a whole. And sources of inflammation are going to be a body burden that can lead to type 2 diabetes. So it goes beyond sugar. Now, it definitely includes sugar, but it goes beyond sugar. So as far as an overall diet, a Mediterranean type diet, which is rich in fruits and vegetables. I just did a video on fruit yesterday, so don't be afraid of fruit. Whole fresh fruit is very good for you. So when we say low in carbohydrates, it's very important to define what we mean by carbs, because it's not whole grains, it's not fruits and vegetables. It is the refined sugar, the highly processed foods that you really can't even call foods anymore. Those are the simple carbohydrates. And speaking of fruit, which I mentioned in the video the other day, it also includes fruit juice. So that poor fruit, it's wonderful when you eat it whole. It's terrible once you've juiced it. So you want to eat the whole fruit. You want to eat real food, not the processed carbohydrates. And so when I say grains to patients, sometimes they go, I can't eat grains. So is it true that you can't eat, let's say, a bowl of wheat berries? And quinoa isn't really a grain, but we put it in that. It's like a pseudo grain. You know, if you eat these whole grains, do you have a response, or is it more that you're thinking of grains and you're talking about white bread or even wheat bread, but that's still highly processed? So sometimes it's a food sensitivity, which I'm going to get to in just a second, and sometimes it's how the food was processed versus in its whole form. So are steel-cut oats something you tolerate well or not? I mean, me, I'm gluten sensitive and hadn't eaten steel-cut oats in a while, and I tried them and I'm like, nope, still no good. Okay, so for me, that's the case, but I can do other whole grains. So it's really about the processing. As I said, we're going to hit food sensitivities in just a second, but let me go through the general dietary recommendations. So sticking with that Mediterranean diet, the whole grains that you can tolerate. Obviously, if you're gluten sensitive, then they're wheat, rye, barley, and any other grains that are contaminated by gluten. Okay, those are out. Good fats. What are good fats? Those are monounsaturated fats, polyunsaturated fats. The classic monounsaturated are olives and olive oil and avocados. And what else is on my list? Oh, nuts and pumpkin seeds. So those are the great monounsaturated fats. And the polyunsaturated fats, we have flax seeds. You need to grind them for the health benefits. Fish, walnuts, soy, organic soy, definitely, sunflower seeds. So these are the polyunsaturated fats. And that is not an exclusive list there or an all-inclusive list. There's plenty of other foods that are combinations of this. And what I want to avoid is too much saturated fat. A little saturated fat is fine. You don't want it to start approaching 10% of the amount of fats that you're consuming as far as grams of fat that you're consuming. So watch your saturated fat intake. You need exercise. You need to be hydrated with good clean water. You have to watch your alcohol content for sure. Make it a very just social and very occasional type of ingestion. And then when it comes to sugar, the less the better, especially if you're pre-diabetic, but I don't like to see people go over 12 grams a day of sugar. So I think that covered the Mediterranean diet. But now what about specific? What about the patient walks in, and other than the general recommendations we just went over, what specifically are we looking at? I mentioned gluten earlier. We are looking for food sensitivities, and there's some tests that we do for that. There's also a modified elimination diet and a special way to do that to make sure you really don't miss any of those food sensitivities, because these are foods that are creating an inflammatory response in you that you may or may not notice. I mean, if every time you ate a food you're sensitive to, you got a stomach ache or you got a headache, you would have figured it out a long time ago. But these food sensitivities are a bit insidious that way. They can be working sort of below the radar, and you can't really feel them overtly because you can't really feel your blood sugar going up or feel certain types of inflammation until then you have frank diabetes. So in addition to that, we also look for hidden infections. So these are organisms in the gut. If you've heard the term the microbiome, that's what I'm talking about. So we do specific testing to assess your microbiome, the 38 trillion organisms in your gut. Are they too inflammatory, or are they nice and balanced? If you have prediabetes or diabetes, I can guarantee you do not have a healthy microbiome. Those two are incompatible. So, but to what degree, and what do we need to do about it, and which organisms are present that maybe need to be annihilated naturally, we don't use drugs, to help compensate and get that balance restored in your gut. And then also potential toxins, so mold exposure, heavy metal exposure, and there are others that we look for. Again, it's all about body burden. So we're identifying what the burdens are and remove, and then the body heals itself. So November, National Diabetes Month. I wanted to speak to this and speak to how we handle type 2 diabetes and prediabetes here in the clinic. And ladies, if you've had gestational diabetes, that is a red flag. Even if post-baby things normalized, your body did that for a reason. So you want to look at this and really optimize your health so that that doesn't sort of creep into your life when you're not pregnant. So if you enjoyed this content, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so that more people can see what we do. And I'll see you tomorrow.